if we don't push the messages that we want as business owners, they're going to create it on their own.
Yeah.
We want to have an avenue that really does build culture.
What does the digital workplace of the future look like as the workplace becomes much more digital?
20 years from now, it's possible the world may not even work, that AI does it all. It's just, what have you invested into? My skill set very quickly is going to become irrelevant when it comes to technology if I don't stay up on different things.
How you can create a culture that's immersive, that captivates, that inspires in the workplace, man, that's a bold call to action. I think you're on that track.
Get engagement so that people continue to sharpen their skills and have the skills and have avenues to learn critical thinking. That's never going to go away. We have that avenue to push pretty much anything we want.
Hey everyone, I just wrapped up the conversation with Patrick McMullan, the founder of Breaktime TV, a very interesting model on how to change the workplace in this era that's getting much more digitized, but more importantly, how do you make it a much more human-centered space? We had a really interesting conversation about not only the technology, but even this intersection with this pop culture conversation that we're having around, for example, a TV show like Severance or Bucky's as well, and how we're trying to create these different type of cultural experiences at our workplace. Please enjoy this conversation. Welcome back to the Future Human Experience podcast. I am your host, Eric Rodriguez. I am so happy for this episode that we have this conversation that we're about to have with my friend, Patrick McMullan, founder and CEO of Breaktime TV. Welcome to the Future Human Experience.
Hey, it's great to be here and to get started on this. You and I have done some things before, but I actually look forward to this for days. Yeah, and thanks for having me.
Awesome, Patrick. We had an opportunity to meet 2 years ago when this podcast didn't even exist. It was probably over 2 years ago. And you were at a conference that we were both at that time. I went by your exhibit booth and I was just overwhelmed and inspired by what Breaktime TV was envisioning, what they were building. Tell us a little bit more about what Breaktime TV is and what inspired this fascinating idea today in the 21st century.
Well, it's a platform. When you think about just the world, we all have platforms.
Yeah.
Most of us live on our phones. We just put it in a break room.
Yeah.
The average employee spends 2.5 times a day. They go there for something: water, coffee, full meal. And at that show was the defining moment, I think. They talked about pushing information versus pulling information. What are your employees doing? And I was standing there going, hello, that's what we're talking about. And when you think about businesses and you think about both as my clients who are operators that have that break room space to the employer that break room market sits in, you have an opportunity 2.5 times a day when they're hungry, you have their attention, they're standing there to send a message.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more. So, and the idea was you're in this office space, you're in this workplace, and employees are taking their time in this one area where they convene several times a day, at different times in most cases, right? Coming from different areas of the workplace. And what you want to do is you wanted to create an engaging platform for them to do from a mix of receiving messages from the company, learning different things about the company, but also elevating the culture of the company too, right? Making it more inclusive, making it more of a place where they all feel they belong. Tell us a little bit more about how that has gone so far. I mean, what are your clients saying when you get to roll these things out around the country?
Well, they love it because the bottom line is your employees now they go to the break room market because there's more specials.
Yes.
They're seeing that they have them. They existed before, but Breaktime TV brings it out because what would tell them better? A sign on the wall or a big meeting? Las Vegas just doesn't have a bunch of signs on the wall. They have screens everywhere.
Yeah.
It's the same model. They walk in, they're now aware of what's going on. So if there's a product promo, number one, they're getting that. They're getting what they want. Secondly, though, you mix in, I'm the employer, happy birthday. Yeah. Everybody likes to hear that. We've been hearing it since they were born. Someone got a promotion. I'd like to everybody to know. It gives the employer an avenue to do it.
Yeah.
Third, just let's face it, it's open enrollment time.
Yeah.
HR leaders, workplace leaders, general managers, business owners, they want to be able to talk to their employees.
Yeah.
And if you wrap that around the TV aspect of what we do as well, is when you bring in the sponsors, promotions, brands that they're seeing on their television every day, but now it's right in front of them in their break room. It's called engagement.
Yes.
So you have break room operators that their message, their story is being heard.
Yeah.
Your employer that sit in, whether it's they're trying to build a better culture and make people aware of what they want their employees to know, they're going to see it because they're getting a promo, they're getting birthday message, and they're seeing a nationally trusted brand wrapped around it. And so that's the word. We want engagement.
Yeah.
And when you talk push versus pull, if I'm a business owner, I want what I want pushed.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, let's face it, the employee's going to pull what they want.
Absolutely. And so let's talk about that a little bit more, Patrick. So one of the things that, when we first look at something like this, you could easily probably assimilate this or assume that it's like, okay, I'm just going to like, I don't know, the gas station, and then I have a TV screen and I'm just getting whatever that gas station wants me to get. To a certain extent, that is not necessarily what's happening here. What's happening here is that you are having this information being pushed onto the employees, but you're also getting feedback from the employees. I mean, the employees are telling you, hey, this is what resonates with me. This is what doesn't. I'm not engaging on this. This message here doesn't resonate, or hey, I didn't take action on certain things. So that's also a feedback loop to the employer to say, hey, how do I tweak my messaging? How can I improve what I want to deliver and engage, or how do I want to engage with my employees? Is that correct? Is there also a data-centric point to this as well?
There is, and it's amazing when people think the break room business is actually very easy. It's actually far more complicated than one would ever realize, ever. But what you also do is there is now an arena full of the data that you can pull to help communicate and touch that employee better. And that's not just in the products that we supply. It's something that drew you and I together.
Yes.
And let's actually back it up.
Yeah.
If I'm an employer and I want that message consumed, engaged in, well, then let's do something to quote unquote gamify that message. Do something that incentivizes them to read it, to actually digest it. So let's put a promotion in that you watch this podcast and you do that, you get a point, and 5 points gets you a free Red Bull.
Yeah.
When you put a perceived value behind something, you're going to get 1, engagement, 2, retention. And so when we think about what we're trying to do for the client, we put Breaktime TV in the actual employer client, we want to have an avenue that really does build culture. And from that, what the unique avenue of the break room is the break room operator can work with them to do different things that incentivize them, that they all of a sudden have their access to that arena data that goes, holy smokes, I can learn something from this to get better engagement.
Yeah, we're not just engaging our employees just when they have the corporate laptop or the corporate devices open. Now you're also engaging the employees in their environment as well, so you get to understand a little bit more about the dynamic, how they're navigating the environment. But also, you as an employer are creating a much more inclusive environment. You have much more control of listening also to the employees. And so I think that for me, when I started seeing what the vision was for Break Time, I thought it was inspiring. I think it was a very unique approach to some of the spaces that we've just taken for granted to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But with that said, Patrick, what was that aha moment for y'all that you were like, okay, there's something here that I see that the rest of the world doesn't? I love that quote from Peter Thiel that he asks people. He says, what is the one thing that you believe in the world that the rest of the world doesn't?
Well, first of all, I bought the URL breaktimeads.com in 2013 as we were developing our own self-pay, self-checkout technology, because I knew then there was more to just selling snacks and sodas, bags and bottles. I said, this is real estate. This is an arena for us to do some different things. But where it dawned on me is, as our businesses were growing, one of the things that you had to have employees do, you wanted to have standard operating procedures and training, and a lot of the training when it came to actual protecting your technology and ensuring people weren't clicking on malware or something like that. It had training that literally, and we've all done it. Anybody listening to this that says that they've never done this, they're lying. Where it's just, they just keep moving their mouse every 10 minutes to keep it, and then they guess at the test at the end. And we're talking network security.
Yeah.
I have 400 employees that are supposed to take this, and it's a cartoon. And the reality is the people that put this all together, they have all the best intentions.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have the biggest need, but we had no incentive. And I'm saying to myself, well, what if I tied that to what we do? Where, they consume this, they pass the test, they get a free soda. Now, for some people, free soda doesn't mean anything, but for a lot of employees, it does. And if you tie something to it, and as I say, you gamify it, well, all of a sudden, you've got a break room operator that's going to benefit because their sales are going to grow.
Yeah.
You've got people that actually are going to pay attention because there's a perceived value.
Yeah.
And lastly, again, going back to that period, I said, this is where we become more than just self-pay in a self-checkout store. We actually become a center point for anything that business wants to do. It's no longer just bags and bottles on a wall and in a cooler. It's truly a store, a center point for communicating and pushing. Going back to when you and I met, we have that avenue to push pretty much anything we want.
Yeah.
And you truly become a partner to that company you service, and you're not just a vendor. And when you do that, great things happen.
That's different. And Patrick, what you're highlighting there about I love that, being a partner instead of just a vendor. And one of the conversations we have on this podcast is we're building this human era. We're building a much more human-centered space, workplace, communities. And I would say at first, maybe when someone sees, oh, this is Breaktime TV, it's just another screen in my community or my workplace, and therefore I'm going to be less human. No, that's not the case, right? You are unlocking what is possible in the workplace, what is possible in that in that community or in that organization, because you're approaching it like a partner and not as a vendor.
Yeah.
Right. Because when you implement this technology in this office over here in Phoenix versus another office in Salt Lake City versus another office in Atlanta, Georgia, their engagement, the way you approach it is vastly different. Is that correct?
100%. When you think, remember, as I said, the break room business is far more complicated than you ever could imagine, because you're bringing the right products to the right location every day to thousands of locations for big operators, for hundreds of others. And you got to, again, each location is different.
Yeah.
Each culture is different.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about all that entails, okay, again, I can just be that provider,
right?
Or I actually can be somebody that's truly a partner that brings so much more. And that's where I come back to, what was our vision?
Yes.
Let's do something that actually makes that's more than just a screen.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's turn it into something, because what is this podcast? The future of the human experience?
Yes.
With AI, I mean, I'm going to tell you, half the people watching this don't know really what AI is, but over the next couple of years, how much more AI is going to limit the amount of thinking that employees have to do. Well, this is an avenue to change, at least when they're on their own time, where they can go in and you're actually wanting to, if you're using the culture aspect of what we do and putting those screens and messages of, hey, here's Eric.
Yeah.
Listen in and enjoy what he has to do to improve your life. You're actually encouraging them to think. In a world where we're taking away avenues that people should be thinking, this actually brings it back. And let's gamify in doing it so people want to do it.
Yeah. And Patrick, I think you're bringing to life an example that technology for technology's sake is not the best solution, right? Just because this technology has been implemented in XYZ industry doesn't mean it needs to happen in mine, unless I understand the culture that I'm trying to build, the problem I'm trying to solve, the environment I'm trying to create. And that's why I love that Breaktime TV has taken those gradual approaches to be ready for the suddenly that's happening, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly that's saying, oh yeah, wow, no, this is what a break room environment looks like in the 21st century versus just, a few decades ago.
Well, ask yourself this. Buc-ee's is opening here.
Yeah.
I think a few weeks here in Phoenix. And that's going to be headline news in every news station, online, everywhere. And I can tell you, I will go.
Yeah.
Without question. I've been to Buc-ee's in Amarillo, Texas, and I thought I'm stopping to get gas. And holy heck, you're there for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It's the experience. And someone may say to me, you actually thinking that you can do Buc-ee's in a break room? No, I don't have enough space for it, but why can't you? Why can't you turn, when you think about that, our society is so infatuated with Buc-ee's, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Why not, if you want to create a culture center, why, again, go back to why is Vegas what it is? Why is Times Square in New York? All this, create an environment that becomes the Buc-ee's of your workplace. And we can help engineer that. And that's what Breaktime TV is all about is, Kim, let's make people aware. What are we selling in the store? What's this? If I'm a break room operator, what do I want my customers, if you're a market user, what do I want you to know?
Yeah.
If I'm a business owner, HR manager, what message do I want to get there? And let's do something to tie something so they're going to pay attention to it. And how else do we help that? We bring in ads that are already on TV. They're there. They're playing on the TV, even on the wall. And just make sure your competitor, Eric, is not on there. And as long as your competitor, they're seeing it on the television there. So let's play it here. But most importantly, it's going to take that message that you want, and they're going to pay attention because they just saw a Coca-Cola ad right in front of them. And all of a sudden there's Sally, the HR manager, talking about this month's employee of the month.
That is awesome.
They're going to pay attention to it, and they'll keep paying attention to it. That, when I was at a golf fundraiser with our biggest client, Breaktime TV, what did I wear? I wore a Buc-ee's golf shirt. Why did I? Because I go to my this client gets it. They saw the screen in the digital media presence years ago. They just needed a partner that helped elevate it to another level. And I said, why can't we turn Buc-ee? Why are we just selling bags of bottles? Let's sell Eric's book. Write a book and we'll put it in there.
There you go.
Why can't we have a book section? If I want people to get a certain message.
Yeah. So Patrick, I know we could probably talk about Buc-ee's for hours.
Yeah.
As someone that grew up in Texas and appreciates this, I'm looking forward to it. But I agree with you. Creating the Buc-ee's experience, how you could create a culture that's immersive, that captivates, that inspires. In the workplace, man, that's a bold call to action. Why not on that track?
That's what you want to do. And we were chatting. Our biggest client, they saw this years ago, and where we come in is add that element. But I told you, I played in this golf tournament. I wore the Buc-ee's golf shirt. Namely, that's why there's no limits to what we can do. And not every employer wants that type.
Sure.
But the ones that do, we can and should provide it to them.
Yeah.
And all it goes back to, we're a partner, not a vendor then.
I love that. With that said, Patrick, too, we're in this era of, you highlighted, we're in this era of AI. Workplaces are changing. Remote work is also a thing for some companies. For some companies, maybe not. The difference between white collar and blue collar is also evolving, and how we're talking about this. But we're also living in a place that has multi-billion-dollar investment right now all over the state. With that said, if you can envision not only what Breaktime TV could be in the next 10 years, but what does the digital workplace of the future look like as the workplace becomes much more digital? And I ask this, well, let me hear your answer first, and then I'll give my own personal commentary on that.
Well, this is a double-edged sword when you think about it, because the world, we're going to continue to automate so many different things. I mean, I read 20 years from now, it's possible the world may not even work, that AI does it all. It's just, what have you invested into? That's almost scary.
Yeah.
Okay. But actually, so you asked about what's the digital workplace and what can a Breaktime TV do to help? And well, part of it is to keep your employee base up to the advancements of what AI has done in a communication tool. Ask yourself today, my parents, my in-laws, anybody of that age to even, I'm a little older than you, my skill set very quickly is going to become irrelevant when it comes to technology if I don't stay up on different things. And where I see our role is we can be that avenue to ensure that, again, I'm going to go back to, get engagement so that people continue to sharpen their skills and have the skills and have avenues to learn, and that you as an employer are are doing something to keep your employee critical thinking. That's never going to go away ever. But if you don't do that and you don't take advantage of avenues such as simple as mine, and again, we're not doing, or what we're doing is not complicated, but it's critical.
Yeah.
And when you can provide that avenue, if you don't, the human experiences, you're going to have a bunch of robots. They're going to be human, but they're just going to be typing.
Yeah.
They're going to be turning wrenches. They're going to be doing nothing for you to use the brain, which is still faster than any computer.
Yeah. So when I was asking that question, and thank you so much for that answer, because it ties in to what I was experiencing when I was exploring the conversation we want to have in this episode. Was it reminded me of this TV show called Severance on Apple TV. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't.
It is very different than what is on TV right now. But just in the basic concept of it is that they introduced this concept that when you go into the workplace, you basically become another person, right? And you lock yourself out of the real world, and you're just there just to do your work. And then when you leave this workplace through this magic elevator, then you go back into the real world, and you have no idea what you just did at work, right? It's just they're completely two different. You've severance, right? You're two different,
like two different countries,
right?
Two different bodies, mindsets.
Exactly, right? But this workplace is very like gray and predictable and all the same. And when I think about the work that you are doing, and I love what you said, that you are there to be a partner. If we're going to build the business of the future with that partner mindset, with the human mindset, you use technology to meet the people where they're at and create these bright and cultural experiences that meet the humanity where your employees at, versus just saying, hey, you're just here with a badge. You're just here with a particular number. And I'm just going to measure your success on what you do for the next 8 to 10 hours in the day. And I think what Breaktime TV is that you're trying to tap into something that builds the whole human, right?
Yeah.
The person that's there to be in the workplace, but also the person that might not be in your workplace in 2-3 years, but I'm going to remember that place where I worked, that invested in me, that connected me with this book, or connected me with this podcast, or connected me with a leader that inspired me to think a little bit differently. Darn, I will always remember that company because of that, right? And I think that is the potential of the workplace of the future. If we decide to invest and partner like you are envisioning, and partnering and building the future of the human experience through technology.
Exactly. And I'm going to use Buc-ee's again and go back to, if you're trying to attract employees, be an orange in an apples to apples comparison. If you truly have an environment, and maybe Buc-ee's is a really over the top example, but it sure should be a Quick Trip versus some of the other options.
Yeah.
The reality is, I look back to what we do, whether you're an operator, you're an employer, you should be looking for ways to take that real estate and turn it into something that it's an avenue where people are on their own time. It's probably the only time where they can truly socialize, talk about anything, the football game to you and I were just the baseball results, the World Series, just anything where it's okay to talk. And it should be in a setting that truly, maybe there should be more Buc-ee's type branding type of stuff there, or even if your business, because 2 years from now, 3 years, if you want to keep that employee, you've got to constantly be doing something that makes them want to stay beyond just a paycheck. Absolutely. Especially in a world where information's so free flowing. They can be so easily influenced. And I circle back to when you and I met. If we don't push the messages that we want as business owners, they're going to create it on their own. And so why not? I tell you this, I go back to, I laugh about it, and that's why I wore the Buc-ee's golf shirt. Maybe I should have wore that today. But if we're not doing something that ultimately makes an employer that spends 60, 70, 80% of their waking time, Monday through Friday, working, if they're not fully vested, if you're not reaching the potential, maximizing the human experience, are they really giving you the return for your business that you need? So again, do it.
And Patrick, what I envision as y'all continue to roll these out, I not only envision an experience that's coming from the employer, but like when we start this conversation, it also becomes an experience that the employee is participating in. And now you're having this co-creation experience, right? So I can envision Breaktime TV in 5 to 10 years being this platform where not only employees are engaged, but because the employees are engaged, that break time experience, again, in Atlanta looks very different than it looks like in Phoenix versus in New York. And that keeps me not only inspired, but continues to get me engaged in what y'all are doing and seeing, hey, what's the next for Breaktime TV? And that gets me very excited.
It comes down to is we want to make a difference to it, and I've used that term partnership. And you think about the fact that we can go in and create an environment that people are energized when they walk in. They're already going to get their energy from Red Bull or Monster or whatever beverage they want, or Snickers. I mean, it comes back to we sell a lot of sugars and salts, but if I can triple the enhancement of that experience by also engaging the mental side of it as well through that they know, oh, gosh, there's a promotion. I buy 3, I get 1 free.
Yeah.
People love free stuff. Yeah. They feel like they're getting a deal too. It's John's birthday today, and I went over and said happy birthday because I love John. We're not friends outside of work, but he's a great teammate. Yeah. So the fact that, again, there's brands that people see, they recognize, and when you put it all together, people go, all right, I look forward to coming here.
Exactly.
And that's where you, as a break room operator, are the orange and an apples comparison, where you as an employer, that this is a workplace I want to be at. Yeah. And when they want to come to work and they're ready to work and they're engaged, if we can be part of that,
it's a different.
Why wouldn't you do that?
That's cool.
Be a Buc-ee's.
Yes. Patrick, with that said, it has been awesome to talk to you today about Breaktime TV. One of the things we love to do with our guests is we ask them to come with a surprise question for me. I'm looking forward to this because we've had a chance to meet each other for the last few years, and we've seen each other's growth in our spaces. But Patrick, what question do you have for me today?
So anybody that's done research on you knows that you sitting on this table is not probably the path that people would say 6 years ago, 7 years ago, looked and say, Eric's doing this. I'm going to guess they would have said, no way. But you had an intersection, a moment, and I call it your defining moment, where you said, I'm going to let this define who I am. And it was probably a day. You asked me, where did I come up with my idea? Where did my vision really get flamed? What is yours? I think people should understand your why even more. I know this answer, but there was probably a day it happened. What triggered it? And what made you finally say, you know what, I'm going to take that leap? And lastly, the other piece is what would you tell someone who also is faced with that decision that's holding back? And to say, this is why I did it, and this is why you should.
Yeah. Wow. Those are deep. So a couple of things. I think the one moment that hit me, I wouldn't say is the one that kind of took me into where I'm at today, but I think it was very defining for me, was a conversation I had with my manager probably 2 years into my job at the tech sector. At that time, I just left the oil and gas industry. I was starting here in tech. And in the evenings, what I was doing, and on the weekends, I was doing a lot of work around education, STEM initiatives. I was teaching classes in Spanish at the Chandler Library, just being of service. I thought that the way you build community is just being of help and being of service to others. That's what our parents had taught us. That's what we had done with my wife for years. And we said, let's just do that. And so my manager sees me do this. And then he says one day, he's like, Eric, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, what do you mean what do I want to do? I'm an engineer. This is the only things I could do is I could go and do that job, and that's pretty much it. I'll get promoted 2 times and I'll retire in 30 years.
Right.
That's my plan. And he looked at me, he's like, no, Eric, no, really, what problem do you want to go solve? And I was like, what the heck? Like, where is that? Is this a trick question, or where is this coming from? And then my next one-on-one, he challenged me again. He's like, Eric, have you thought about what I asked you? And I told him, I said, look, you know what? I was vulnerable enough. He had created an environment. We had a relationship that I could be vulnerable enough with them. And so I shared with them. I said, look, I think the world is moving really fast technology-wise. We are in the forefront of it. And I think we're leaving people behind. I think if Moore's Law plays out and as this exponential growth of change is going to happen, we have to make sure we're bringing everyone else along. And because I was doing work in education, because I was doing work in communities, I could see how people were just overwhelmed. This is pre-AI conversations culturally. And as soon as I told him that, I said, this is the problem I think I should be helping to solve. I really thought he was going to fire me. So I was like, well, it's a good run being an engineer.
You wanted 2 promotions. It's not going to get the first.
Exactly. I'm not going to get the first promotion. And then when he told me he changed my life, he's like, all right, great. So every job you have from here on out, just look at it like a tool into your toolbox. Don't look at the next job opportunity as a title, or about your salary. Just look at it about where you're going to go learn to go and try to solve that problem. And I feel that conversation put me on a path to just look at my career or my journey from that way, right? Today, I'm doing this podcast with you, and I am incredibly grateful to have a wonderful team around me to do this. But I think I'm still that person that was almost 15 years ago having that conversation with that manager. I just want to help solve this problem. I do feel the future is moving really fast. And I feel if we don't have these conversations and have this platform to bring folks that are trying to build a human experience, then we are going to leave people behind. And my hope is that when people watch these conversations, they're inspired by like, oh, wow, that's what the workplace of the future could look like. This is how it could bring humanity along. And that's why I feel that's why this podcast is important for me, Patrick, on this journey. Like I said, I'm grateful that I have a great team that encouraged me to do this as well. Cause I was like, yeah, I'll just do this on the stage. I said, no, Eric, you have a platform, you have a network, bring others along. And I think that was also very, very important for me on this journey, or instrumental for me, was someone like the Seco Space organization to challenge me and say, all right, Eric, if you want to have these conversations with others, let's do it on camera. And
Well,
so, yeah.
is it fair to say, as we talked a little bit earlier, I'm a little older than you. My technology skills back 20 years ago were superior. Where to now, I feel like I'm behind. And I almost feel, is it fair to say your mission is to ensure that the human aspect doesn't get left behind, so that by the time you get to my age and beyond, that human interaction and that human experience that we as professionals and business leaders and just businesses as a whole have just lost that. So I see, as you say, listen, I need to make sure that the human experience is truly not forgotten.
Yes, it's in the forefront, but also I think there's a component there that brings us together as well, Patrick, and the work that we get to do is that we're also building a world that our children and our grandchildren are going to inherit, right? And to a certain extent, I was on this mission even before I had kids, but I knew that one day, if I was blessed enough to have a kid, that was the world I wanted to build for them. And so that has also been part of my inspiration, has been how am I building a world that they will inherit, but also not themselves, but everyone else around them, right? Because the 11-year-old that my son is today is just as important as the 11-year-old in the middle of Atlanta or the middle of Oklahoma or the middle of Portland, Oregon. And so that's why we do this work that we get to do. But with that said, Patrick, thank you so much for your leadership, for your mentorship on my journey as well. And how can people stay connected with you and the journey that Breaktime TV has been on?
Well, the easiest way, it's breaktimetv.com, but you can follow me on LinkedIn where, we have other social media platforms, but our message is to communicate to business leaders. So it's just, you just look it up, this linkedin.com/McMullan PJ.
Awesome.
That's where you can find me. I have one of the easiest phone numbers to ever remember. It's 480-690-6000.
Oh, wow.
Easy. Again, talking about human experience. No, I read recently, don't send call.
Yeah.
Pick the phone up. Don't visit my website. Call me. Let's have a conversation.
You got it. Well, Patrick, we're going to have all links to that, including your phone number, on our show notes. Patrick McMullan, thank you again so much for being part of the Future Human Experience.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode. I'm inspired to hear that these conversations are resonating within our communities, our organizations, our companies, and our households all around the world. If you found this conversation to be valuable, please take the time to like, subscribe, and share it with someone else. I do believe that as the future gets much more digitized, it gives us an opportunity to be much more human as well. And these conversations are part of that journey. So if you're enjoying the content on this channel, please check out these videos. Thank you.